Good afternoon. Welcome to Council Connections. Can't hear? Can everybody hear? Okay, we tested the mics and they were working. So can everybody hear? Let's try Phil's.
Hello, hello.
Okay, we're good. Welcome to Council Connections. My name is Ina Podorf. I'd like to introduce Phil Cavallo, Woodland Ponds Dining Director. And today, our topic, obviously, dining here at Woodland Pond. So without any hesitation, let's start. My first question, Phil, is tell us about your background.
Sure thing. Hi, everybody. Good to see everybody. If I pull the mic away, just yell at me, all right, Betsy?
She will.
So my background, a little personal and a little professional. From the time I can remember, I've wanted to be in the restaurant business. I was 8 years old, and I asked for an Easy Bake Oven for Christmas. From then on, it's just been go, go, go ever since. I got my first job in kitchens after being a paper delivery boy at 12 to 13. I got a job at 14 in a fish fry called Doug's Fish Fry. Did that for a few years, moved into the greatest grocery store in the world, Wegmans. I worked in their market cafe for 4 years. They gave me scholarships to help me pay for culinary school. Went to Johnson & Wales University, the competitor of the CIA. I am from New York originally, wanted to get out of New York to see other places. That's why I did not choose the CIA. That's why I decided to go the Providence, Rhode Island route. After and during college, I started working for Sodexo, the current company that I am with now. Worked for them for about 6 years at a catering company in Boston called Creative Gourmet, and then at the Mystic Seaport. I left them, moved to New York City, worked for the Batali and Bastianich Restaurant Group, now known as just Batali Hospitality, Bastianich Hospitality. I worked at Casamono, which is a Spanish restaurant in Irving Place. Was there for 3 years, came on as my first ever front of the house manager job. I worked in kitchens up until then. It's tough to get a job in a kitchen in New York City unless you've had one previously. So in 9 months, I was promoted to general manager. I was there as the general manager for 2.5 years. And then Dinosaur Barbecue, a restaurant that is near and dear to my heart from Syracuse, probably the reason I went into the business, was opening up 4 blocks from my house in Brooklyn. So I went and I talked to John Stage, the owner. It wasn't a job interview. I was just letting him know that I was a fellow culinarian from Syracuse who loved what he did, and if he needed anything, I would be there to help him. The next day, his chief operating officer called me and said, John wants you to work for him. After some negotiating, I decided, you know what? I'll leave my wonderful Michelin-starred restaurant and become an operating partner at Dinosaur Barbecue. Did that for 3 years, completely burned me out. I took some time off. I backpacked through Southeast Asia for about 6 weeks. I came home. Dinosaur Barbecue reached back out to me and said, we need you to come back. It just wasn't the same without you. I had known that I was going to be moving out to Los Angeles, so I needed a paycheck. I got back with them for 6 months. Was the kitchen director for the original restaurant that I had opened, and then I moved out to Los Angeles where I worked for the Patina Group. We did Downtown Disney, the Rockefeller Center, the Empire State Building, Walt Disney Concert Hall, a bunch of the high-end places. I worked specifically for a steakhouse called Nick and Steph's Steakhouse. There's also one in Madison Square Garden. I was the GM for them for 3 years. And then I kind of got poached by a female-owned and operated restaurant company who also had a farm and a butchery. So all of our proteins that we served in our restaurants were born, bred, raised on the farm, and then butchered in our butcher shops. So we knew exactly where everything was coming from. I did that through COVID. I opened up 2 new restaurants with them. And then COVID happened, and I unfortunately had to lay off about 835 people. We closed 5 of our 8 restaurants, and we turned all of our butcher shops into grocery stores, essentially. It was at that point when I had rekindled my relationship with my now current wife, and we were camping in San Diego when we realized we wanted to move back to Hudson Valley. So fast forward a couple of years, moved into Poughkeepsie, New York, worked at Vassar College before coming here, have a 2-year-old daughter, and now I'm at where I hope to be for a very, very long time. So a little bit about my background.
Thank you. So, in other words, not a fry cook at McDonald's.
Not a fry cook at McDonald's. I did that once. Don't need to do it again.
Jumping right into the big question, how will kitchen renovations affect resident pub and dining services?
Before, during, and after renovations, there will be lots of changes and lots of things that will affect the residents' dining. So during renovations, we will never not have a facility to cook out of or to serve out of. So there will always be food that will be offered. If we need to turn the pack into a dining room, we will do that. The logistics have not been laid out yet, but we can assure you we will not feed you all dinner, lunch, breakfast, whatever it is you need. We will be there to make sure we can do that. The small things, like I'd mentioned yesterday, if anybody was at Q&A, with the shuffling of the cooler and the freezer, some things get lost. We don't order some things that we think we have in-house that we don't have. So there might be some things that in our world we call 86th. That just means we don't have them. We've run out of them. We don't have them. So there will be menu changes for the next couple of days, and I hope you all just bear with us. But that being said, once all the renovations are done, this place is going to be immaculate. It's going to be wonderful. The big things that I can speak to, we are turning the center dining room, if you will, the one with the high ceilings. We're turning that into a bar and a lounge area. We're building a brand new bar. We will have, it'll be a beverage bar. So we'll be doing a juice bar during the mornings. We'll be doing a coffee bar all day. And then we'll be doing a bar in the evening. You'll be able to go there, get your beverages, hang out with your fellow residents. It'll be more of a casual seating, soft, comfy chairs, that type of thing. We are then opening up, it's kind of like the bistro kitchen now, but it'll be over near where the game room is. It'll be in the game room, actually. And that'll be a self-contained breakfast, lunch, and dinner casual dining. There will be walk-up service, but there will also be seated, weighted service, if you would prefer that. The hours are still being worked on, so I can't speak to them, but they will be open. We will be open from 12 to 6, 12 to 8. We're not really quite sure. But you'll be able to get breakfast, lunch, and dinner from there. And then the dining room, we are turning into a fine dining establishment, if you will. It'll be higher end food, a little bit more pricey, but it'll be seated, reservation only service, kind of like it is now, only elevated. So you'll have options. That's in the current dining room and bistro area. We're also building out the verandas to give us 2 additional dining rooms that are connected to the current dining rooms. That'll give us an extra 12 to 14 tables per dining room. There'll be fireplaces, and it'll be nice.
So in between the construction, we go to your house for a meal? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Lots of changes in personnel in the dining areas. Who's who?
So Jared, who's been here for about 4 years, who was the executive chef, is now the assistant dining service director. So he works directly under me. We had a very good interview yesterday for an executive chef candidate. Fingers crossed. So we will have, from a Sodexo standpoint, we will have myself, Jared, an executive chef, a chef manager who is Delon, and we have our registered dietitian, Tanya, who works upstairs and in the health center. And then from a Woodland Pond personnel, we have a senior sous chef who is Jamel, who is basically the same as Delon, only he gets paid by Woodland Pond. Delon gets paid by Sodexo. We have Tanya, who is our dining room manager. We have Faith, who is our health center manager. And then we have Ruth, who is our full-time hostess.
And here at Woodland Pond, there are many residents with special dietary needs. There's dairy-free, gluten-free, low-sodium, vegetarian, and of course, vegan. How are nutritional needs for these groups being met with the meal plans?
Let me back up 1 second and say I missed Ashley. So I want to say that Ashley has been here for a while. She's worn many different hats. She will still be part of the dining team. Ashley basically does all of the menu printing, all of the scheduling, all of the payroll, that type of stuff. So I apologize, Ashley, if you're watching this. I didn't mean to leave you out. And then going back to the new menus to make sure that every dietary restriction, every dietary need gets met. Funny enough, Jared pulled a recipe out of one of your books this morning. It's a cauliflower dish, but that's a side note.
That's from the Sublime. Sublime was a restaurant, a vegan restaurant in Fort Lauderdale that unfortunately during COVID went under, but they were voted the best vegan restaurant in the world. That I was there twice. I was lucky enough to get reservations. So that's from the Sublime cookbook. Yes. Okay. Continue.
Other than that, we have taken a lot of the information that we received from the dining surveys and from all of y'all who continue to talk to me on a daily basis whenever you see me in the pub or wherever it may be. And it's tough to please everybody and to make a menu that, can adhere to all satisfactions. That being said, we are doing everything in our power to make sure that we are adding extra sodium-free dishes, extra vegan dishes, extra dairy-free dishes, extra gluten-free dishes to the menus in form of either always availables or daily specials. So
in the future?
In the future, yes. We are building the new menu cycle as we speak to roll out in April. And then the new cafe casual dining room is going to have a vast menu. It's going to put the current bistro menu to shame. We're going to have pizzas and pastas and different sandwiches, different burgers. We're going to have panini presses. We've got this really cool piece of equipment called a Turbo Chef. It's going to be a pub menu, for lack of a better term, like you would go to, call it a Chili's or an Applebee's or something like that. That's kind of where our menus are going to be based upon. Much healthier, obviously, and not frozen food, fresh food, but that's the direction.
Something to look forward to. Questions seem to always come up with what's the difference between the always available menu and the daily menus?
So always available menu is a set menu for 7 days. It's got the 4 entrees, the 4 sides, the soups, the salads. The daily specials are basically what we have to look forward to making in the kitchen. It's kind of made a week in advance, but we change it based on what we can get, what looks good. And that is a special that is only available the day that it is available. And then it's not available again until, it is. But it's daily specials, essentially.
Can the always available menu be sent out when the week at a glance menu goes out so people can see what's coming for the next 7 days?
Yeah, absolutely. We can make sure that happens.
And okay, will residents still receive a discount when we go to the new 15-minute reservation meals?
So now the early reservation is the early bird special, and the late reservation is the night owl, correct?
Yes.
So we haven't set anything in stone yet, but the first reservation block, maybe the first two, and then the last reservation block, maybe the last two, we can work with the team to figure out what kind of a discount we can give for those particular spots. So it would be 4:15 and 5 o'clock. It would be 6:15 and 6:30. Any combination of those times. I'm not saying no, there won't be discounts, but I don't know exactly what time frames we will discount.
If 4 people make a reservation, one calls and says they want a reservation at 5 o'clock, and the other 3 call individually and make the reservation for 5:15. Can the 5 o'clock person, or actually the 5:15s, go with the 5 o'clock knowing that it was 15 minutes before?
Are they sitting at the same table? Are they?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So the reservations are based on number of tables, not number of people. So obviously we can't accommodate 4 tables of 15 at one time, but there's no difference for us between 4 tables of 4 or 4 tables of 6 or 4 tables, 2 tables of 2, 2 tables of 6. That does not matter. The table is the table. So it's 4 tables per 15 minutes.
How will the floor parties or the dinners for, I don't know, California residents work when you've got 15, 20 people and you're all wanting to eat together?
So those are reservations that we will take on a case-by-case basis. And if I need to block a 5:30 time slot so that you can get a table of 20 or 25 people, then we will do that. If you ask for the reservation 2 weeks in advance and you want 5:30, but there's already 2 reservations for 5:30, but there's nothing for 5:15, I'll ask you if 5:15 is acceptable. We'll work around it.
Will there be any kind of room, a private area for large groups or parties?
Yes. So the 2 new dining rooms that are being built will be able to be closed off for private events. They'll hold probably 30 people. And we are building a 8-top, it's a wine room. We're building a wine room and we're putting a table inside it. So that's going to be our fancy, small party, get away from the world kind of a place. So there will be options for private events.
Can you explain how meals in the pub, how the sides are picked that go with what entree? And also somebody asked, have you ever considered having the protein and then the option of what sides they can pick to make the meal to go?
So the to-go meals are based on a Sodexo recipe book. So we have a program, Simply to Go, that we need to follow to stay compliant. So the delivery meals that y'all get, you can choose what entree, what proteins, what sides you want. But the to-go meals that are pre-made, those are spec'd out in accordance with Sodexo policy.
Will Saturday pub hours and offerings be extended?
All hours will be changed. Again, I'm not going to say what they may be, but yes, the pub will turn into the bar, and the bar will be open later in the evening. If there's special events going on, we'll stay open for them. We'll throw Super Bowl parties and that type of stuff. So yes, the hours will be extended.
Great. Can you please explain the system for food preparation and delivery to the health center?
Absolutely. So we concentrate on health center food before we set up independent living. So for dinner purposes, all of health center food is prepared before 4:30. It is held in heated transport boxes, labeled, portioned, and ready to go. At 4:30, the health center team comes down. They unplug the boxes from the wall. They wheel them up to either skilled, assisted, or garden view, and they put them into our heating tables and heating wells to stay at temperature. Everything is pre-ordered day before, so we compile a prep list of everything that needs to be made and sent over. That gets packed into those heated boxes and pulled over.
In the health center, there is, unfortunately, more often than not, people receiving or not receiving food that they ordered. Is there a system that can be better, or how does that work?
The system needs some help. There's no question about that. They're handwritten. So it is, people make mistakes. And unfortunately, there's a lot of hands that are involved. So the order is taken, the order is transcribed, the order is sent over. When we get the order, we compile it onto a tally sheet. The tally sheet gets posted in the kitchen, and that's what the chefs use to send the food over. So in that process, there are some misses. We are trying to figure out a better solution. Right now, it's just we're working on it. We're trying to make as little mistakes as possible, but there are mistakes. We are aware.
One more health center question, and then a couple more. Will the health center get a better kitchen setup in the recount?
Yes. So in the remodel, the entire skilled dining room and kitchen are moving. Assisted is staying where it's at, but we are turning it into a country kitchen, which basically looks more like a residential kitchen that will be front and center to the dining room. And then Garden View right now does not have a kitchen at all. They just have a food cart. They're getting their own kitchen. So we are expanding.
But this is all scheduled for third phase, or as they finish kitchen NIL, they'll.
Correct. This is all phase one altogether.
So that'll be a better improvement before anything else in the health center. They have something to look forward to.
No. The health center remodel all happens at the same time.
Okay. The next question that I have, and then we can throw it open, is some people have the assumption that the breads and desserts are baked in-house. Some say it comes from the bakery, and then sometimes it's switched off, but the rolls that were served for the Christmas and New Year's, people said were much better than the daily. So what's the deal with baking?
So baking is a mix of in-house and purchased. All of the breakfast items are purchased from Rockland Bakery, with the exception to our muffins and our scones. We bake them in-house. all of the rolls come in from Rockland Bakery as well. So the rolls that came in for the holidays were a frozen product from Cisco that were then thrown into the oven to bring up to temperature. So the holiday rolls were different. And if everybody agrees that those are the best, we can go for those all time. I brought them in just because Rockland Bakery was going to be closed on the holidays and I wanted a fresher product. But for the most part, the cakes, the cupcakes, those are made in-house. The pies, the tiramisu, those are purchased in. So it's about a 50-50. Pies and tiramisu are purchased for us. But the cakes and the muffins and the cupcakes, we bake in-house.
My last question, every couple of nights, there's a question at the table. Is the butter discarded if it doesn't get used?
Is the butter discarded if it does not get used? No, it does not. It's pre-wrapped. So if it were open, we would throw it out if it was not used. But because it's pre-wrapped, we can reuse it.
Right. The staff keeps telling us that it gets thrown out.
Okay. I'll get to the bottom of that.
Those are
a lot of people take it home.
Those are my questions, and so I'm going to throw open the floor to asking your questions. I hope I covered a lot of the questions that need to be asked. So let's start with George.
Thank you very much. That was a fantastic presentation and amazing list of questions. And we're so glad you're here. I'm a vegetarian, not vegan, but I eat vegan. And I appreciate the fact that on every menu, there is at least one vegetarian option. My complaint is that vegetarianism has changed a lot. We're not in the stage of boiled broccoli and dead leaves. And there's I'm sure you know, a really rich culinary tradition in vegetarianism, but mostly I'm not seeing that here. And I'm rather disappointed that frequently we don't see anything we can eat, even though there is one or two options there. And it's disappointing.
Yeah.
So
that fair question. First of all, I want to say I appreciate you guys wanting me to be here because I want to be here. Secondly, when I came on, the Sodexo recipes for vegetarian and vegan dishes were pretty archaic, like you said. There wasn't many options with plant proteins. That is something that I'm working with Jared on to try to increase. So therefore, all vegetarian and vegan options have some sort of a protein. Because yeah, it was lacking. The team put a vegetarian dish on the menu, but it was kind of an afterthought. That's not something I'll skate around. We are working to make sure we're putting more attention, more detail, and more thought into vegetarian and vegan dishes moving forward.
Two little questions. One is, where do the raisin walnut rolls come from? They come separately from the others. They are like of private bakery quality and taste. I'm just curious where they came from.
So that's the one reason we would keep Rockland Bakery. Literally the one reason. So they come from Rockland along with all of the other rolls. For some reason, they do those ones better than they do anything else.
Yeah. That second question, don't you think that's inevitable that at these 15-minute intervals of people arriving for dinner, that there'll be some people who are late? And then if somebody comes at 10 after 5, do they get sent to the 5 o'clocks that they signed up with? Or do they wait 5 minutes for the 5:15s? It seems to me there could be traffic jams.
They'll be seated when they get there. So it's not going to be the doors close at 5:16 and reopen at 5:30. We will be open throughout the dinner process. So from 4:45, the doors will open, and they will be open until 6:30 when last seating happens. Obviously, people will be running late. People will be running early. We hope that everybody is respectful of everybody else's time enough to try to get to the reservation in an appropriate manner. It's not going to shut down the kitchen if we seat 6 people at 5:30, the 2 people at 5:15 that were late. That's not going to destroy anything. So we will allow you to come in. We just ask you to respect the time that the reservation you made and try to get there in a timely fashion.
So I heard a rumor about you that you were at some point in your career involved in operating a restaurant that was undergoing some major renovations and had to keep the original one open at the same time. Is that something you expect to happen here, or?
Yeah, that's exactly the same thing. So the question was, in my past, have I had to deal with renovations where new restaurants were being built and I had to work out of the old restaurant that was under renovation? And if that is what I foresaw this upcoming renovation to be like. And that is exactly the same thing. We know how to run a restaurant. It's just easier to do it when all the pieces are in place, right? And when there's renovations, that always puts a bump in the road. The good thing about this renovation is, with the exception to our walk-ins, the main kitchen pretty much stays the same. So we will be operating out of the same kitchen that we're currently operating out of without much that's going to affect our way of service. There will be walls that come down. They're moving our dry storage area and they're putting the bank in where that is. They're moving a couple of offices. So the perimeter of the kitchen are going to be construction, but the main line where we do all of the food production, that's pretty much going to stay the same. So all we need to do is figure out where to build dining rooms. So
I've got a 2-part question for you. First one is, I'm allergic to MSG, or monosodium glutamate.
Yep.
And I want to make sure that that's not kind of hidden in the food.
never been in this kitchen once, never will be.
Oh, really? That's good.
Yep.
Even though, especially in the sauces.
Especially the sauces.
That's
The
what hides.
only sauces that we get in that would contain MSG, we make sure that they are MSG free. In fact, Sodexo as a whole, we are not allowed to buy product that contains MSG.
Oh,
So
good.
it's not even on our vendor list.
Very nice. Very good. Thank you very much for that. Second question. Could you take us through how you order the food? You know, say you want liver in a couple of days. How do you do it? What happens? Or who you order it from? And
Yep. So we have three main purveyors. Cisco, they do all of our proteins and dry goods. Beldor does all of our vegetables, produce, and then Rockland does all of our baked goods. So we get produce in Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We get Cisco's in twice a week. And we get Rockland Bakery in every single day. So if we build out, our menus are built out 5 weeks in advance, so we know what's coming up. We do an inventory of everything that we have in our coolers or in our dry storage. And then we have par levels that are set up based on what we think we're going to sell. And we order to make that par level equal. So if we have one case of roasted red peppers and we think we're going to go through two because we have the smoked Gouda soup on that week, we order one case of roasted red peppers to make sure that we get to our par level. That make sense?
Did you see yesterday's New York Times announcement that the FDA has proposed regulations
Red dye number 3?
on what?
Red dye number 3?
No, not the red dye. Labeling the amount of salt, sugar, and saturated fat. That's going to be on the front of all food packages. If they're only proposed, and this is going to be years before they come in. I just wondered what your opinion is of salt and sugar and saturated fat with respect to cooking for us.
So we try
Excuse
to,
me, 1 million people a year die from these items.
Yeah, we try to use low sodium everything that we can possibly buy. If there's a low sodium option, we do purchase the low sodium option. In terms of table salt, we do add salt because salt is also, it helps with flavor profiles and whatnot. But we try to use as minimal as we possibly can, and therefore we have it on the tables for the guests if they want to increase their salt content. Because of cooking for a CCRC, we do have our recipes in the back of our mind to make sure that they are as healthy as they possibly can be. So, again, most of the recipes that come out of Sodexo's recipe book are recipes for the senior sector. That's what we're considered, and most of those recipes are developed to be low sodium, low saturated fat, so on and so forth. Okay, I will look into that and make sure that we. Okay, thank you for sharing that. I'll look into that.
Hi, thanks so much, Phil and Ina, for this great presentation. I have two quick things. How do we get dinner entrees warm at the table? I've decided it's too depressing to have cold stuff. So I eat salads, which are wonderful. So I'm just wondering, is there anything in the future for keeping them warm?
Yeah, so it's not an excuse. Our equipment is 15 years old, and it doesn't work the way that it should. Our plate warmers pop, the circuit breakers all the time. The heat wells that we keep our food hot in are going in and out of service. We actually have approved a quote to get a brand new steam table that should be delivered in the next 2 or 3 weeks. That'll help tremendously. We are bringing in new heat lamps that will pull down from the ceilings, that will be able to be on whenever the plates are in the window. But also the new reservation policy will help the fluidity of service. So you won't be waiting, if you're the last table seated out of 11 tables, you won't be waiting after your food order goes in for an extended period of time. So the food order will go in, the kitchen will put it in the window, and then it'll get run immediately. Whereas now, because we're backed up and we just don't have the staff to manage appropriately, the food does sit in the window a little longer than it should.
Great. Okay. Yeah. I have a quick little story that's so excellent. We had a dinner for 4, and we all, when I can't remember, it was a special evening, and you were out in the dining room, which was great. And we got the tables mixed up, and there was just chaos everywhere, just chaos. And we found a table, the lodge table, and we ended up with 5 people. We needed a 6th, and then you turned up with Randy. Perfect. So we ended up with this absolutely magic table, and we are now meeting every last day of every month. And I said, Randy, no, I didn't. I said, Phil, whatever makes you happy is going to make me happy. And it was just special. It's magic. I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing that with everybody. That was Christmas.
Christmas.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
This may be a sort of a silly question, but
I know spinach cooks down enormously by a bag, and it's about 2 servings. So how much spinach do you buy in pounds or crates or?
A lot. So we go through about 10 cases of fresh spinach whenever we do spinach as a side entree. And the case is, I believe it's a 5-pound case, which doesn't seem like that much, but it's spinach, which doesn't weigh much. So it's a 2x2 box. Yeah.
Phil, Ina, thank you. This was very informative. My question has to do with lunch. Very often I would like to have lunch with one resident or one outside guest, but I'm forced to sit at a 4-top because there's only 1 or 2 2-tops, and 4-tops don't work when you want to be with just one person. How can you fix that?
So with the new renovations,
Well, before the new renovation, because I don't know when that's going to happen, and I
Okay.
may not live that long.
you'll
So
be here. You'll
please.
be here. We can. It's easier now that it's not the end of the year. November and December is when we're very, very busy. The declines are running out and everybody's coming to join and they're bringing their families. So if we have the opportunity to see 2 people at I can't change the tables, but if I have the opportunity to sit 2 people at a 4-top and just remove 2 of the settings, there's no reason why we shouldn't do that. You can ask. Yes, you can ask, and I will work with the team to make sure that we make sure that happens. So I don't have the exact specific dates, but renovation is supposed to start in the spring, and who knows when it'll be finished.
Phil, hi, thanks for doing
Hello.
this. My question pertains to food waste. Inevitably, in a restaurant, as well run as it may be, there's going to be wasted food. And I would like to know what Woodland Pond does to minimize that, and B, is there anything that could be done with good but unused food?
So the good but unused food we package up and we sell in our Simply to Go cooler at half price. The product that is not usable, we compost. So we throw everything into these big compost bins. They get picked up weekly, and that goes to composting sites. I'm not sure what they do with them, to be honest. But because we've been running alongside Woodland Pond for 15 years, Sodexo that is, we have theoretical data that we can fall back on, and we know practically how many salmon entrees we're going to sell a day and how many chicken entrees we're going to sell a day. So we don't prep an abundance of that. That's why sometimes at the 6:15 seating, you order something and we unfortunately have to say, unfortunately, we ran out. We would rather run out than have leftovers and waste. So we have minimized our waste quite a bit.
I would like to go back to the health center a bit. And I understand you're building a new kitchen. I know that bit, but I don't see how this is going to help one of the fundamental problems over there. The food's fine, but it's cold. There's just no ifs, ands, and buts about it. It's cold. I mean, it's cold sometimes here, per my French fries last night. But anyway, it's really a problem at the health center. And unless the transporting vehicle of whatever you want to call it is changed and the heating system is changed for the plates, it's not going to be a change. I don't care how many new kitchens you build, because you're not going to cook food over there, right? Those kitchens are just for warming up.
Correct.
Okay. So the fundamental problem to me is not being changed. And the other thing, while I have the mic, is that when you deliver food to people that are in skilled nursing and are not going to the dining room, I was over there for a few weeks a couple of years ago, and I was at the end of the hallway. So by the time the food got to me, it was really quite cool. But the container that you have them in is left wide open while they're, I certainly understood why it was cold, but there's got to be a better way. It's got to be a better delivery system.
So I'll start with the latter. We used to have a double wide delivery warming box for Health Center for the deliveries. I got rid of that and I got 2 smaller self-contained units. So now they each go to different wings and they stay open half as long. So I'm hoping that helped a little bit. Yeah.
When I was recently in the health center, one of those warming were broken because the heating element was broken. So it was down. What good use? It was down for quite a while.
That's why we got the new ones. So the ones that we have now are new. They work. They stay hot. They stay charged to the best of their abilities. The first part of that question with transporting from here to there, we do have the plug-in boxes that are quite archaic. In the budget for the new renovation, I do believe we are getting new vessels to transport food. We also have Aladdin plate warming systems that, again, are old and, not working up to par. And we need to recharge the plates more frequently than we should. So we are progressively, purchasing new equipment that will last longer and be better. But to do it now just doesn't, it doesn't make the most financial sense until we have the budget for the new remodel. So if it's an issue that needs to be addressed immediately, I can absolutely, work that out with Michelle and with finance and figure it out. Right now, that's the equipment that we use is what keeps the food from being as hot as it needs to be. We're hoping in the next 18 months it's complete. Yeah. So the single biggest complaint is the temperature of the food? Okay.
If I may add a comment, there is no perfect system that will not allow some energy to cool off from materials. The question is, if somebody gets the food that it's not up to temperature, isn't it possible to just warm it up? Just put it in the microwave 50 seconds or something? Is that not part of the...
we have microwaves in each of our kitchens.
So people need to ask.
If they ask, we can warm them up for sure.
So that's...
Yeah, that's not a solution, but it is a possibility that if in the dining room somebody wants their food heated, that's an easy fix. Yeah, about half.
You talk about everything that's being bought. Sodexo buys some equipment. Woodland Pond owns some equipment. I'm just wondering, what sources of friction, if any, are there between having two sets of bosses, Woodland Pond and Sodexo?
There really are not. We've been working together for 15 years since Woodland Pond opened. It is a great partnership. We jump through hoops to make sure Woodland Pond and Michelle and you all are happy. And, you know, from a Sodexo standpoint, Woodland Ponds is one of our favorite clients. And, you know, we do whatever we can to make them happy and they do whatever they can to make us happy. It's a great partnership.
Hi. You earlier talked about the Simply to Go menus for the Simply to Go things coming from Sodexo. My complaint is pretty simple. By the bread or bakery product that's in with the filling, the bread gets very soggy from sitting there all the time. Is it possible to just separate the two? I don't mind grabbing a spoon and slapping the stuff on a piece of bread and having dry bread.
That's definitely something that we could look into. We do have the proper containers to be able to make sure that happens. We just sell deconstructed sandwiches and you all would put them together. And we don't have to do that to all of them. We could do that to half of them. And if people wanted to grab sandwiches that are pre-built, they could. I can look into that.
This may be a very silly question. This may be a silly question, but it's something that happened to us. And it might have been a mistake on the waiter's part. We ordered chicken cordon bleu, which we both know what it is. But out came 5 balls this size on the plate. And we said, what is this? And he said, it's chicken cordon bleu. So we tasted it. We thought maybe it was an experiment. Maybe this is how you serve it here, because we haven't been here that long. And we tasted it, and it was ground up chicken, ground up cheese, and ground up ham, rolled into balls and dipped in something and fried. Now, was that a mistake or was that an experiment? And I haven't ordered chicken cordon bleu since then because I'm too nervous.
To me, that sounds like a mistake, but I am not sure. That I haven't seen the chicken cordon bleu personally. I will. That's the first thing I'm going to bring back up and go see what our recipe looks like as soon as I go back to the kitchen. Yeah, we could have run out, and that's what they did, you know, to supplement. I'm not sure, but that's not chicken cordon bleu in my book.
I just, as I was listening, thought of 2 things. One is the consistency of what comes out. Portions at the same table being served at the same time. One is this big, one is this big. And last week's flounder, whoever had it, somebody said they'd never seen a flounder that small. They got one piece. Somebody else at another table made a comment to the wait person who said, I'll get you another one. Again, size of portions, consistency, what's going on?
It's something that needs to be worked on, and it needs to be monitored from the kitchen. No excuses. We don't have an executive chef who can be an expediter right now. You know, that's not an excuse, but every plate, once I get an executive chef put in line, will be seen and handed to the runners by the executive chef. You know, right now the runners and the servers, they're trying hard, but they need more training. They need more help to just up their level of service a little bit and their knowledge. They don't look at a plate and say, you know, that entree has a small piece on it. That entree has a big piece on it. Let's, you know, ask the kitchen to make sure that it gets evened out. So that's on me. I need to make sure that I coach them a little bit more on that.
Having been here about 5 years and being in charge of coordinating these meetings. I want to congratulate you because it's almost an hour. I mean, this is the record.
It's not me, it's the food.
And as you may have guessed already, food is a big challenge, particularly when we have a community with perhaps 250 people that had 370 different opinions about what should be. And I mean, like when you say that, I mean, you can cook with less salt, I can tell you, I hate food that it's not tasty because it doesn't have enough salt, or it's not enough pepper, or it doesn't have this and that. And I'm sure that of anything you do, there will be different arguments. So I know how hard it is to navigate that. At home, I'm lucky because my wife, Leah, cooks, and she likes to cook, and she's good at that. But I know it's not an easy job. And yeah, so.
When you talked about the inconsistency of portion sizes, I often order chicken thighs. And very often the person with me has a big one and I have a little one. And I say to the waitress, I'll have what she's having.
You must have seen the movie.
Before we end, I would like to acknowledge that Joan Kleinegger's chair of the dining committee is here, and Joan Mandy, and Bernice is here. So first, thank you. And Joy, sorry, I didn't see you behind Halima. Please know that we meet the first Tuesday of every month at 10 o'clock. I have so many things. Please come. We want people. So Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month, 10 o'clock in the classroom. And it's posted. We'd love to have you, whether it's for one time or every time. Second of all, on behalf of everybody who had a million questions, Phil, thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. And next month, another council connection. So thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.